member of the Portland Children's Levy Allocation Committee, and welcome to our fifth and final meeting of 2023. I'm joined by my committee colleagues, city-appointed county community member, Tracy Rossi, and Dan, a warm welcome to our newest member, Dan Floyd, who represents the business community. Dan is currently the Chief Operating Officer and co-owner of Hood to Coast Race Series, president of Floyd Public Affairs, and co-founded On Shelf Partners, a retail food brokerage. He has extensive experience in public affairs and government relations. Dan has also served on and chaired many nonprofit boards, including All Hands Raised, Providence Portland Medical Foundation, Oregon League of Minority Voters, and Insight. Dan, it's nice to have you on the committee. And do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure, thank you. And Felicia, thanks for nominating me, by the way, or at least passing my name along. So appreciate that. And some of you have heard this from me already, but I know everybody except for Tracy on the allocation committee, and the three that I know, respect, and I've worked with in the past, and so that was very inviting for me and gave me great confidence in this group, just because I respect that group so much. And I've also, just one other thing I've added to this is that I'm born and raised, been Southeast Portland, been here my entire life. I may not have benefited from some of the nonprofits and CBOs that this group is seeking to support, but I certainly benefited and was aided in my childhood from a lot of community programs and just great leaders, individuals who helped me throughout my life. And so it means a lot to me to be a part of this group. And I think I do have a strong understanding of the need for it. And I'm not where I am today without what I got along the way in Southeast Portland. So I'm very thankful for all of that, and thankful for this group, and look forward to definitely learning. I'm telling you, I've read everything that was in the email twice. And similar to the All Hands Raised board, there's still so much that I need to learn, because that was something that was tough to understand in the beginning too. But I may be asking a lot of questions, and I appreciate your patience and guidance. So thank you.
We're thrilled to have you, Dan. And talking about Dan's, our chair, Commissioner Dan Ryan, is unable to join us, along with Multnomah County Commissioner Julie Brim-Edwards. They send their regrets and will join us at the next meeting. I'm also joined by Levy staff with Erica Bridgman-Bignoli, Joel Broussard, John Kelly, Megan McElroy, Lisa Pellegrino, Katrina Peterson, and Eugene Zhang. Thank you all for joining us today. And now on to our agenda. So first up, let's approve the minutes of October 17th, 2023. Can I ask for a motion? That leaves you, Tracy and Dan. One of y'all have the motion.
I said, am I allowed to vote on minutes for a meeting that I didn't participate in?
You can make the motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion. Make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So at this point, we have time for public comments on non-agenda items. There will be opportunities to comment on items on the agenda later. Eugene, has anybody signed up for non-agenda public comments?
We do not have anybody signed up for any public testimony in this meeting.
Okay. Thank you. And so we are actually going to go then on to item number 1. So next, our grant manager, Erica, will introduce our guest speakers to present on the community engagement plan. So Erica, I turn it over to you.
Okay. I would like to introduce Camille E. Trummer and her team, her colleague, Tanisha Tate Woodson, who we have hired and we talked about a lot in the last meeting. They are going to be talking to you today about the community engagement plan. So all of the activities that we will be doing with the community over the next several weeks. And so I will go ahead and turn it over to them now because they have more talking points. They're going to tell you a little bit more about themselves before they get started.
Hi, everyone.
So Camille.
Thank you, Erica. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. My name is Camille Trummer. I use pronouns like she and her, and I'm a social impact consultant and fourth generation Portlander. I'm joined here by my colleague, Tanisha Tate Woodson, who is a researcher on my team. And we have a slide deck prepared for you all to walk you through the community engagement plan that we have designed in deep collaboration with the Portland Children's Levy staff. We're going to walk you through the entire plan, which is quite robust. So I'm going to share my screen. But before I do, a few housekeeping items. We have a section for Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you'd like to drop your question in the chat, please feel free to do so. And I promise we'll circle back to them during the Q&A section. If you have a burning question that is urgent, that you must get your question answered during the presentation, please feel free to use the reaction button in Zoom by raising your hand. I'm demonstrating it right now so that I can be sure to see you because it is difficult to see a slide deck and hands raised in Zoom at the same time. And any other questions before we begin? All right, I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me for a moment. And I'm going to put it in presentation mode. Can everybody see that? Give me a thumbs up if it's on your screen. Beautiful. Thank you. So again, today's purpose is really to walk you through the community engagement plan for the community and provider engagement doing that project that we are doing in collaboration with the Portland Children's Levy. So the purpose of today's conversation is to really introduce you to the community engagement plan. It is designed to solicit input from priority communities and providers to inform funding priorities and programs for the next levy period, which is 2024 through 2029. Our objective is really to deepen our understanding, your understanding of our work, and to build trust and confidence in our approach as we move towards implementing it, which I'm excited to say that today we are deploying the community and provider survey. So I'll touch more on that, but this is a milestone moment. We've worked really hard to get to today. In addition, I'd like to introduce you to our team, clarify our project roles, as well as other roles that team members are fulfilling that are not here today. Share our proposed approach for achieving our scope from a results and key performance indicators standpoint. Build a strong foundation across everyone at this virtual table for this work and deepen our pathways for collaboration and support. And then also preview the path ahead, since today is the first day of the community and provider survey, and we have a lot more engagement to do between now and May. All right. So the agenda, we're going to go through introductions. I'll tell you a little bit more about my firm. We'll provide a project overview. I'll walk you through the community engagement plan. We'll have time for Q&A, and then we'll talk about next steps. Okay. So a little bit about me. I'm a values-based interdisciplinary social impact consultant, a facilitator, and a community engagement strategist, born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I have over a decade of experience in regenerative design. That just means I don't work from a transaction-based perspective. When we work in community, it is for building lifelong relationships and helping mission-driven organizations deepen their relationships and nurture their relationships with communities across the spectrum of identities. I work at the intersection of social impact, community engagement, and strategic communications, communications being my background and training. And I have a deep network of community leaders and mission-driven organizations that I work with to do social impact work in Portland, but also across the nation. You can learn more about me and my work if you scan that QR code, or you can visit my website at camilletrummer.com. I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to my colleague, Tanisha, so she can introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. Tanisha Tate Woodson here. I am delighted to be here in this space with you all and to share with all of you about our community engagement plan. On our project, I will be taking on the role as the lead researcher. My background is, and my training is in social science as well as research and investigation. Been doing this work for several decades now in a lot of different spaces, from the public health sector to education. Across my portfolio, I really focus on using a culturally responsive and equitable lens to the work that we're doing. So that really makes sure that we are amplifying the voices of communities that are often left out in a lot of research initiatives. And that looks at capturing their voices from a myriad of perspectives. That could be from verbal communication to arts, as well as other ways of capturing this. So thank you all for the time today, and we look forward to more information provided to you and for you to ask us questions.
Thank you, Tanisha. All right. So a little bit about my firm. It's a boutique social impact consultancy, leading innovation and at the intersection of community engagement and strategic communications. And we do a broad range of communications, including creative as well. And while we focus on community, and that is our sweet spot, we do larger scale public engagement work as well. We're a collective of researchers like Tanisha, strategists like myself, storytellers, designers, and community engagement practitioners who partner with mission-driven organizations to create positive change with and for communities most impacted by injustice. You can learn more at my website. All right. So let's talk about this project. We are so excited. We've been excited for months to jump into this work. We've been working really closely with the PCL team since about August, doing some pre-planning, and we're now at a really important milestone in our work as we launch this really robust community engagement process. So in September, PCL officially engaged my firm to co-design and implement a comprehensive and accessible community engagement process to determine the most needed and effective programs for children and families across Portland, from using community and provider perspectives and input. And our goals are kind of twofold. We want to establish and nurture relationships with organizations that serve children. We know that PCL holds a lot of relationships, and we want to increase the number of relationships that they hold and deepen those relationships. And also through that process, support data collection in a variety of ways. We'll talk about the different instruments that we're going to use to support data collection so that we can use those insights to develop a set of recommendations to inform funding priorities for the next levy cycle. So we're really excited about that work. And this is kind of a macro level snapshot of that work. So let's talk more about the project. This is a really robust community engagement process. And as you all know, PCL does this work every 5 years when the levy is up for renewal, so that they make sure that the way that Portland voters intended the funding to be used is aligned with community input and needs from those most impacted by a variety of kind of intersectional oppression. In March, as you all know, Community Council set goals for community engagement, which is really helpful for us to understand what goals and metrics we should be working towards and align our approach with those goals, recommended topics for community input based on what you all have learned over the last 5 years through the last community engagement process. And after completion of the community engagement process, you all will consider the results in tandem with us, and together we will recommend some recommendations, what we call key findings, to help inform funding priorities for the next funding round. And I will say that because our firm is deeply committed to collaboration, we don't see this as a project where we're going to go off and do our own analysis in a silo and come back and kind of tell you what to do, like some traditional consultants may work on projects. We believe in collaboration. So we actually can't move to the next iteration of any stage of the work without sitting in deep collaboration with staff and with stakeholders to understand what is it that we're learning from community and providers in this moment. What does that mean for the next stage of our work? And how can we have and take an iterative approach to what we call meaning making or analysis synthesization, so that we can create recommendations that really matter and will make a difference in the lives of children and families across Portland. Okay, so let's review the goals that the council so graciously put together for us to kind of guide our work. So they really want to learn from diverse stakeholders the most effective and needed services for children, especially those who are impacted by historical inequities and those that were disproportionately and continue to be impacted by COVID-19 and other public health crises. So we know that there's a lot of trauma that folks are holding. And so we want to make sure that we hear from a diverse set of community members. And my particular theory of change for this work is that we're hearing from new voices. So trying to tap into new nonprofits that are serving children and families that maybe not have been on the radar or have not applied to a grant with PCL before, or have just cropped up in response to some of the different needs of children and families across Portland, or are serving a specific population, et cetera. The second goal is to identify community solutions. So what are communities saying in terms of their highest needs, and what are the recommendations that they already know and believe in will make a difference in their lives? We want to hear about solutions that, seek to improve outcomes for children and families, including any culturally specific or culturally informed grassroots strategies, and anything that came out of the pandemic that folks are now saying, hey, this is a strategy that worked and we need to continue this, and some funding would help us scale our work. Another goal is to build positive relationships with marginalized communities. That's always the core, or the underscore of how we do our work. So building those positive relationships, increasing brand affinity for PCL as well, and brand equity, so that folks know, like when they think of a support system or a network of organizations designed to support children and families, Portland Children's Levy comes up first in their minds, as well as promoting community understanding and awareness of the Levy's work. So we know that the Levy does a lot of work, not just from a funding process perspective, but from making sure that there's a variety of organizations that are set up for success and designed to support them in different ways. And so we'll talk about those from a topic level in a moment, as well as improve transparency about the community engagement process. Who are we talking to? Why did we decide to talk to those people? What has this process looked like starting from today when the survey is live? How did we do outreach? How are those organizations selected? Who have we partnered with to scale and strengthen our outreach? We're going to be talking about ways that we can improve transparency and share periodic updates about our work along the way. So those are the goals. And let's talk about the focus. So in addition to the goals that the council set out, there was topic areas of focus that they really wanted us to dig into based on the last community engagement process and what they learned out of that process, and also just emerging themes and needs that have come up in a variety of ways that the organizations that they fund have lifted up and surfaced throughout their work, and that they continue to kind of see in terms of trends across children and families in Portland. So mental health. Barriers that youth and families experience to accessing mental health resources, self-care, and emotional regulation support. Culturally specific approaches to mental health, a variety of options for mental health that support PCL program areas, aligned training for providers in social emotional well-being and healthy relationships, as well as effective practices for supporting children and families with intellectual and development disabilities. Mentoring. Social emotional focus on confidence and self-sufficiency and self-regulation, and culturally specific mentoring, with a specific focus on mentoring for youth aging out of the foster care system. And some additional issues, digital literacy for needs for families as we emerge from the COVID-19 emergency. A lot of schools issued laptops, sometimes that's the only way that some of our children and families have access to the internet and other digital resources. So we really want to understand that. And then culturally specific and responsive strategies for addressing violence, prevention, and trauma, including gun violence. Support services for youth and families experiencing housing instability and childcare affordability and gaps and barriers, a topic that Tanisha and I know very well as mothers of two young children. I'm going to check the chat box for a second just to make sure I'm tracking any questions. Okay, great question from Dan. We'll circle back to that, Dan. Okay. So let's talk about the populations that we are seeking to engage. So again, the council gave us good guidance about who they'd like us to prioritize, which has been super helpful. LGBTQAI+ youth and families that support them, low-income families, single and teen parents, Black, African immigrant, and refugee youth parents and caregivers, Southeast Asian youth parents and caregivers, Pacific Islander youth parents and caregivers, Latinx youth parents and caregivers, Native American and Alaskan Native youth parents and caregivers, Russian and Ukrainian youth parents and caregivers, as well as youth and families with lived experience of any type of trauma or violence, disability, housing instability, multi-generational homes, those that might be aging out of foster care and or that may be parenting as a teen. Okay, so we're going to move into our community engagement plan. This is a high-level plan that kind of outlines our approach for implementing what we describe as a trauma-informed, linguistically accessible, and relational engagement process that seeks to facilitate community-driven strategic planning for the current levy period from a funding perspective, but also from a perspective of building relationships and hopefully cultivating more organizations to apply for grants to scale their work and their impact. And again, we look forward to collaborating with you on our proposed approach. While we have developed this plan and we're moving forward with it, we welcome your recommendations, areas of improvement, areas for our firm to grow in our work and on the path ahead. Okay. So our approach to community engagement and partner engagement is really designed to reach and receive input from communities most impacted by intersectional oppression, those who experience barriers to civic participation and populations that the council has identified as high priority. Our practice at our firm is really designed to set the stage for what we call regenerative, sustainable engagement, which means we are creating a constant feedback loop and we're continuing to nurture relationships even as the project closes. There's going to be many opportunities for us to thank folks in reciprocity for their time and for sharing their knowledge, and to set the stage for hopefully partnerships in the future so that children and families can continue to get their needs met by this network of really stellar and amazing practitioners. It also is designed for accountability. So what we say we're going to do in this plan, we will do. If we can't do it, we will be transparent about why and what barriers may have stood in our way that we did not anticipate. This plan also demonstrates our commitment to using an equity grounding and our core principles for anti-racist best practices for community and partner engagement, which are to acknowledge the institutional, systemic, and structural barriers that perpetuate inequality and have silenced communities over time. Honor, respect, and center community expertise and resilience to own and co-create solutions that meet their needs. Build trust, credibility, and authentic long-term relationships to nurture over time. Facilitate meaningful engagement, shared leadership as a part of the engagement process, swift community support and capacity building and co-creation of solutions using social justice and anti-racist frameworks and best practices. And of course, to fairly compensate individuals for sharing their time, expertise, and input as a part of this process. We're also recommending, as a part of our proposed approach, to implement this plan using a phased approach to ensure that each research instrument, which we'll talk about in a moment, and the findings that we uncover along the way builds on the next, so that we know which questions to ask and why we're asking them, and that we're always having a grounding or some sort of preliminary understanding of what we've heard and make sense of what we've heard to build on the next opportunity to engage communities and providers. So let's talk about project roles. So if we back up for a moment, when we think about the large team that's responsible for this scope of work, I, as what we call an account director, I am having full oversight of the project, dipping in and out of the different phases and supporting my team members along the way, and also making sure that PCL as a team and as staff feel like they're very much integrated into the planning and the process and the implementation of the work. I'm also one of the engagement leads. Tanisha is going to sit right next side me. Our arms are going to be linked as we go into different iterations of the plan. We'll talk about what that looks like from a focus group perspective, as well as me supporting some of the survey deployment. Melissa Burgess is our project manager, who we could not live without. She is keeping this project moving. She is really, really amazing. She couldn't be here today, but she is the primary point of contact for PCL staff and has a bird's eye view of every single activity happening across the phases of work at any given moment. So she is a talent that cannot be underestimated. Tanisha, of course, is here with us. She is the research lead. She is responsible for programming the survey, deploying the survey, and analyzing the survey. She's also going to sit with me during the focus groups to help analyze the qualitative conversation that we're having with community. Annie Ozels, who's also not here today, she's the research analyst. She's sitting side by side Tanisha in many aspects of supporting survey deployment, but also leading in-depth interviews with providers. And there's a list of providers that we've been working with PCL on to kind of identify who would be the best for her to speak with over the next couple of months. Andreas Oswalds is our Spanish focus group facilitator. He is well known across community, does a lot of social impact work and policy work, and has deep experience in Spanish facilitation and making sure that community engagement processes are accessible to Spanish speakers. And then we are proud to partner with Verbio Group, a local trans creation and translation firm based out of Beaverton. We've been working with them for years on a variety of different projects, including statewide campaigns. They offer transcreation and translation in all of the languages that the council has prioritized and all of the languages that we're seeking to engage our community members in, with deep support from the community engagement liaisons and PING's group, who's going to be taking a huge slice of the community surveys to help us get the response goals that we're hoping to achieve through this work. So those are the project roles. So let's talk about phase one, because we're in the thick of it. Today is the first day of the hard launch of the multilingual community survey. In collaboration with the cells, we've programmed and have now administered and are continuing to monitor and will eventually analyze a 6th grade reading level 19-question online survey available in 7 languages. And the cells will be orally translating that survey in 26 languages. Our primary audiences for the survey are parents and caregivers from the PCL priority communities and language groups. So that list of communities that I mentioned a few slides ago, as well as the language groups listed here, are our priority audiences. Our metric for this survey are 500 responses. The cells are responsible, cells being the community engagement liaisons, being responsible for 300 of those responses, and our team is responsible for up to 250. We're compensating $15 per individual that completes the community survey. We are responsible for clarity of analyzing and tracking the survey that is available in English, and the cells are responsible for the other languages that are listed on this slide. We also have a provider survey that is now live. We are tracking and monitoring that closely. That survey is only available in English. The primary audience are direct service providers, and our metric is 100 to 150 responses. And this work for the survey kicked off literally today and will continue through the end of January 2024. So tell your friends and tell your colleagues if they fit the bill for being a community member or a direct service provider. We'd love your help in supporting and strengthening our outreach. Phase 2. So in-depth interviews. So as I mentioned, Annie is going to be leading this process. Using qualitative deep listening strategy, we've designed and planned and are beginning to schedule, and Annie will facilitate 10, 45 to 60-minute in-depth interviews using the following approach. So we, in collaboration with PCL staff, have identified who we believe from a subject matter expertise per standpoint we should be having conversations with. So one expert on children and youth with disabilities, another that has served or has experience working with LGBTQAI+ children and youth, as well as Southeast Asian children and youth, Black and African and immigrant children and youth, Pacific Islander children and youth, Native children and youth, youth that are in foster care or maybe aging out of foster care. And then based on what we learn and what we're learning from the community and provider survey, we're going to tee up scheduling 3 additional interviews with any subject matter experts that can help fill the gap. So if community is indicating, hey, we need more of this, and we don't have a subject matter expert plugged into our in-depth interview schedule, we're going to go ahead and start to search for that subject matter expert and fill those in-depth interview dates probably closer to February, as we're beginning to learn from the survey and learn from the first 7 in-depth interviews. Again, these interviews are tailored for subject matter experts across the topic areas listed. We're aiming for 8 to 10, and in reciprocity for their time and sharing their expertise, we will be compensating them $50 for completing an interview with Annie. And again, this work is going to happen starting December. We have an end date of January listed here, but my instinct tells me we might want to stretch it out to February, just so that, again, we can have an iterative approach, and whatever we're learning from the survey that's set to close at the end of January, we can start to fill in the gaps through in-depth interviews as the next phase. Phase 3. Caucus focus groups. So using ethnographic research best practices, we have begun designing and planning and coordinating 8 to 10 in-person and or virtual focus groups. They've been programmed using the council's criteria and kind of guidance for who we should be talking to. And so we have a focus group that Andreas will be running for Spanish-speaking youth and parents and caregivers. We have a BIPOC LGBTQAI plus youth focus group that's intended to work at the nexus or the intersection of a range of identities and experiences. So it's pretty open, but we're hoping to get a good mix of folks that identify as both BIPOC or LGBTQ plus or either. We have a focus group reserved for parents, youth and parents with disabilities, youth that are in foster care and foster parents, youth and parents and caregivers who identify as Pacific Islander, a group for our younger folks that are aged from 6th to 12th grade, youth for parents and caregivers that may be experiencing houselessness, those who identify as low income, parents who identify as single or as a teen parent, and then a group for anyone that identifies as Native, Latinx, Black, Southeast Asian, Pacific Islander, Slavic, or Middle Eastern. And so again, there's a couple of things that we're going to be paying close attention to as we program the focus groups, especially the in-person focus groups. One is the state of public health. So we want to make sure that we're not inadvertently gathering folks and folks are getting sick because they're together. So we will make a call as we continue on through the holiday season to see what works best. We also have deep accessibility considerations to make for especially folks that might be attending the focus group for youth and parents with disabilities. That will likely be virtual, but we're doing some research to figure out if there's any other best practices we should implement around accessibility for that population in particular. And we will continue to kind of assess what would be the best venue. We want to make sure that they're near bus lines for the in-person focus groups and that there's easy ways for folks to join us for these conversations. Our metric for the focus groups is we'd like to have 8 to 10 participants. We anticipate possibly getting interest in more, but 8 to 10 is usually a comfortable conversation. When we get into the 12 range, it's really hard to make sure that we hear everybody's voice. Folks will be compensated $100 per individual. They must meet a participation requirement, which is we'd love to hear their voice at least twice during the focus group. And so that is going to be one thing that we're very transparent about and that we repeat often throughout the focus group to make sure that folks are actively participating and that we're hearing their experiences and their perspectives. So focus groups will be conducted January through March. And we will keep you all updated on how and where and when they're programmed in the coming weeks. Phase number 4, key findings report and presentations. So a big question we have is how can we craft what we call a key findings report based on what we learned through this engagement process that builds off of the last report, but also is presented in a way that is accessible. So for us as strategic communication practitioners and researchers, we want to make sure that yes, the report is accessible for stakeholders and staff, but also for community. And so we're thinking really hard about ways that we can create a findings report that allows folks to kind of take a journey through the process of engagement, understand the recommendations that we've included, and can really make meaning of what this process meant for everybody that was involved, most importantly, the communities and the providers that we solicit input from. So using the art of qualitative and ethnographic data synthesization and what a research firm based out of Oakland that we work with often describes as the meaning-making process, we're going to synthesize the results of the community engagement process iteratively. So once we learn about the key findings or preliminary findings from the survey, we're going to start to huddle as a team and say, okay, what do we make of what we're hearing from community in this moment? What do we make of what we're hearing from providers in this moment? and use that to help set the stage for in-depth interviews. And so while Annie has already kind of put together an interview guide, that interview guide may change based on what we learn from community, so that we have an opportunity to ask subject matter experts, hey, we heard this from community. Can you tell us, or color on their commentary, if you will, to help us build a more robust analysis. And from in-depth interviews, I'll be beginning to develop an interview guide that's based off the survey, that's based off the interviews, so that everything is kind of building off of the next. We will start to synthesize the primary research instruments, as I noted, and we will start to lead that process and document our preliminary analysis before our team goes into the meaning-making work sessions, which are kind of scheduled for late March. The key findings report will be co-developed by the research team, all of us, as well as PCL, to surface a diverse and comprehensive set of key insights and recommendations that reflect community and stakeholder input and guidance. And as I mentioned, while our goal will be to deliver and present findings that are accessible, namely kind of research participants and community members and PCL council, our objective is to find a format or a variety of formats that allow us to present the global analysis and the thematic findings and the set of strategic recommendations, but it may not be in the traditional narrative format that you're used to. There might be a companion deck that allows folks to digest the recommendations more easily, or we might create maybe a splash website page, which walks people through a journey of what the community engagement process is, and then they land on recommendations so that it's easier to share with community that helped shape this process. So we'll talk about what that might look like, and we're going to bring in our design strategists and creative directors to help us with that part of our scope. So let's talk about the project timeline. We started in September with a lot of pre-planning and getting our ducks in a row, and most importantly, getting aligned on goals and values. We've been doing project planning in October and November to set the stage for where we are in December, which is that the surveys are out, the in-depth interviews are going to be scheduled soon, which will set the stage for our work in January. We'll start to do some preliminary analysis of the surveys and the in-depth interviews, and the focus groups will begin. And then in March and May, we'll continue our analysis. We'll move from preliminary to full meaning-making analysis, and we'll start to sketch out an outline and eventually fill that outline with what we've learned to develop a full key findings report. If you're a visual learner, this is another way to look at the implementation of phases 1 through 4. So the community engagement plan was developed here. The survey is deployed here. Focus groups are happening right here. In-depth interviews are happening December through January. We may stretch this out to February, depending on schedules. And then preliminary analysis and key findings are happening here. So you can see that every phase is kind of building off of the other. There's a lot of overlap, which is intentional. And so before I close for today's presentation, I just want to touch on shared expectations. This is really important to us as a team and as a firm. And we just want to surface for you all the operating agreements that we've entered into with PCL staff. And these are really our commitments and accountability measures for you all as our project collaborators and stakeholders. And so our expectation is that we're really committed to co-creating relationships and environments across our industry and across every project that we touch that are anti-racist, pro-justice, and beneficial for everyone. Our operating agreements for this project and for all projects that we touch that PCL invites us to collaborate on is, we're really working to acknowledge and work and dismantle microaggressions and all forms of intersectional oppression from every touch point that we have with our teams to every touch point that we have with community and stakeholders. We want to be really intentional and mindful about the language that we use and the impact it may have on individuals and communities. And those are really important, especially at during our touch points with community members. We're going to promote and create ongoing opportunities for honest discussion and constructive feedback on our process and our tactics along the way. And we commit to continuous learning and in some cases, unlearning harmful behavior and taking an iterative approach to our work. We expect and we acknowledge mistakes will happen, but we view them as opportunities to learn. And so these are our commitments and our agreements for this project. And we hope that you'll hold us accountable to these as we continue our work together. So that wraps up our presentation. We're now at the Q&A section. So we acknowledge that we may have created some questions for you. And Dan already put one in the chat that we'll circle back to. But these are some prompts that we hope that you'll consider as you're thinking about your questions about anything that we've shared during today's presentation. You know, do you have enough context and information about our proposed approach to implementing PCL's community engagement project? Do you have a strong understanding of each phase of work, respective key goals and objectives for each, as well as the metrics that we're using for success? Do you anticipate needing any more information beyond what I've shared here to inform funding priorities and programs beyond the final project deliverable, which is the key findings report? And last but not least, do you feel confident in our shared expectations and project operating agreements, or do you have any questions about those? So those are some prompts. I'm going to pull down the screen so that we can see each other's faces, and I welcome questions, comments, and recommendations.
You know, if we could start with Dan's question, I think that would be great. And what a fantastic presentation. And from there, I'll open it up to committee members to add questions after that.
Thank you, Felicia. So Dan, your question is, how long has mental health, behavioral health been a priority for PCL? Has there been a significant increase in need for funding this priority in recent years? I think that's a great question for PCL staff because I don't actually have that historical knowledge.
I can address part of it, and then if any of my colleagues want to chime in, they can. So the recommendation, Dan, about the mental and behavioral health that came forward for this came out of our community council based on not only their experience, but also this, as staff, we were in agreement on it based on things that we had been hearing from grantees throughout the pandemic and from, you know, community members at large, which was the continual strain that youth and families have been through in the last, you know, 3 to 5 years. As our community has faced numerous challenges increasing. So the community violence and the pandemic and the isolation that comes with the pandemic during the lockdown period. And so community council really felt like that was an important piece to address, because that is something that has changed since the last time we did community engagement 5 years ago, is there's been this whole set of experiences that's happened. And so wanting to know more about how that changes the priorities for the community. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I know that the answer may seem obvious to some, but it's interesting to know that, of course, it has changed in the last 5 years. And I'm glad there's a focus on it. And I also am, it's not just hope. I'm not just hopeful, but I think that I look forward to taking action on that. Let me put it that way, because it could be because we hear about it a lot, and I'm glad people are now discussing mental health, behavioral health more commonly. But now I look forward to taking action on that. Thank you.
And
And
Dan, the
the
only thing I
other
would
two
add,
questions are in the chat as well.
I would just only add one thing, Dan. I would say that we have not, and just contrasting it because I've been here a long time, I would say that did not surface as a really high need in our last community engagement process that we did. So it's always been a portion of what we have focused on, particularly in child abuse prevention and foster care, where there's a lot of trauma, but maybe not so much in after school programming, for instance. So what we've seen is a kind of across the board getting raised by grantee organizations currently. So I just wanted to add a little context.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Dan, for your great question. We'll move on to Tracy's question. Thank you, Tracy. Is there a plan or mechanism to provide a feedback loop for involved community members to see the impact their time, insight, and experience will impact PCL and how we will move forward? It's an excellent question. So as a part of the survey process for both the community and provider side, and also I would say for every phase of work, we are going to be collecting contact information for anyone that we engage with. And that will be a great way for us to provide periodic updates about what we're learning, prep people for the next round of engagement so they can be sure to participate. We're going to be working closely with PCL2 to craft strategic communications to kind of summarize what we're learning and to continue to thank folks for their time and their input. This is a way that we kind of begin to nurture relationships, build those relationships, and build brand equity and brand affinity for PCL along the way. And so while it isn't explicitly outlined in the plan, it's inherent to how we do our work. And so the way that we know to do that most accurately and well is that we're collecting that contact information. Otherwise, there's a big kind of missed opportunity to make sure that we are getting folks consent to make sure that if they want to receive those periodic updates, they can. And if they have questions about the process or want to provide feedback, but not directly to us, they have an opportunity to build that relationship and deliver that feedback to PCL staff. Tanisha, did you want to add any to that?
Nope, you touched on everything.
Awesome. Does that answer your
Thank you.
question, Lucy?
It does. And it's just so important to me because I think often community members don't see themselves as experts, and they are most definitely the experts here in this process, and then to see how we're moving along. So thank you. I'm glad that's inherent in your process. I appreciate that.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. And then Felicia, I just want to lift up your question here, which I think is to the group. Any best practices you recommend we utilize for this project that are not currently included? I want to clarify, is that a question for the allocation committee here, or is it a question for my team?
It's for your team to see if there's anything else that you think we should be adding, because this is such an important part of the next round.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this question, Felicia. When I think about setting the stage for how we present recommendations in the spring, I'm not sure how PCL, well, actually, I do know how PCL has approached that previously, but I'm wondering if there's opportunity, and I want to be really transparent, y'all, this is contingent upon budget, but I would love to have some type of community or an accessible venue where we can invite community to come learn about the process and the recommendations as a thank you, and to say, here's what we heard from y'all, and here's how it's showing up in this set of recommendations that will help inform funding. So if there's, for lack of better words, a way that we can have a party to celebrate this work and to invite community back in to say, hey, here's what we learned, here's what y'all did, this is coming from you all as experts, and here are the next steps in this work, so we can start to build kind of popular education or community education around how a funding process works. I see it as both an opportunity to recognize and acknowledge and thank folks for their time, but also to engage in education that will help hopefully promote civic participation in the future, right? So if this is a process that feels accessible to folks, then maybe they'll feel so inclined to engage in other processes that are led by PCL or any of the other bureaus across the city, really. So just kind of wondering, that's something that I've been thinking about. It's a best practice that I've utilized for public health projects, right? Where we do a campaign, and once the campaign sunset, we bring everybody together to say, here's the data, here's the analytics, here's the behavior change metrics that we were able to move the dial on because of y'all. And here's where we're going to start to think about what the next iteration of this public health initiative looks like, that is community driven. So that's one thing that I've thought about, but I want to be really transparent. It is contingent upon capacity, time, and budget, but I think there's a way that we can maneuver it into the final presentations of this project in the spring. Dan, I see your
Thank you,
question.
Camille.
Yeah, thank you, Felicia. Dan, I see your question here. Will we receive periodic updates after each phase? I apologize if you already answered this question. No need to apologize. Yes, you will, because we're going to be doing what we call, so Melissa on our team, which is the project manager, she sends a snapshot of all of the work that we've accomplished for any given month, and that coincides with some of the phases of work. And so what we can do is create a kind of short summary of what we accomplished, what we're learning, just really high level preliminary analysis for PCL to share that with you all, if that would be helpful, because we're going to be doing that anyway. And it's very easy for us to kind of encapsulate it in a monthly summary that we send to PCL to demonstrate what we've accomplished across the scope. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Great.
And any other questions before we let Camille and her team go?
I just wanted to add, well, a couple of things. First, I want to thank Camille and her team for that fantastic presentation, because we're just so excited about their work that I maybe under introduced them, because I didn't want to say anything they were going to say because they say it so well. So yes, so thank you and accolades to them. But also because I don't think it's been mentioned, I wanted to bring up the fact that our plan is to have a joint meeting of the allocation committee and the community council when we have findings to be able to go through this together. So that will be a great opportunity for you all to really be able to get into the nitty-gritty of the work with Camille's team, and also get to meet the community council members and continue in that kind of regenerative process that Camille was talking about.
Thanks, Erica. Yes, our goal is to make sure that none of the recommendations that we set forth are surprising to you all, that you've had a chance to kind of digest them, comment on them, modify them as you see fit and based on your experience and the work that you all do, so that we actually present them as kind of a unified front to all stakeholders and community when that time comes. Any other questions or comments?
I just have one comment. I have to say, as I'm now going through this a couple of times, I just want to give kudos to you. That is the best presentation we have received on this process in our history, in my opinion. So I just want to thank you. It was very thorough, it was very detailed. It also took into account multiple learning styles. And if community is watching this, they have a clear understanding of how we're engaging in this process. And so I just want to say thank you as you both leave. And so we just appreciate working with you, and we appreciate what's going to come from fruition to serve our community even better. So thank you to you both for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us.
Well, thank you so much. We deeply appreciate that feedback, and we're excited to continue the work. So we will see you later in this journey together to build more opportunity for our communities that need it the most. So thank you.
Thank you
So
all.
thank you.
Cheers.
And so next on our agenda is our director, Lisa Pellegrino, and she will provide a brief overview of the funding process timeline and the plan allocation committee work for 2024.
Morning, everybody. Great to see you all. And yes, I also want to thank Camille and her team. They've been fantastic to work with, and I am really excited to engage or really start implementing this whole process. After we've been talking about it so much, I can't wait for it to begin and to really start with the learning, because I'm sure that we're doing this substantially differently than we've done in the past, and it's really exciting to me to, as a person who's been around for a long time, to be moving in that direction. So thanks again. And I am gonna I'm gonna, some of what I say will maybe be a little bit of a repeat of what you've heard, but I'm really aiming for the committee, particularly because we have a couple of new members. So both Dan and Julia is relatively recent, even though she wasn't able to be here today, is trying to keep us all making sure that we're focused on the overall big picture and timeline, and that begins to live in your head as we move through this, because as Felicia pointed out, she's the only one sitting here who's been through the full process, the planning and the making of decisions to the end. So it's a long process, and I want to make sure that we're kind of keeping our eye on the prize there. So you can see the visual up there, and as you just heard from Camille and Tanisha, they finished planning and are now beginning implementation of the community engagement process, and then we expect that to finish up the engagement elements finishing up in the winter of 2024. At the same time, we've begun work on designing the funding process with the community council, and you'll hear from Meg on some more details and where we're at with that a little later in the meeting. So this includes the work on the funding application and the scoring criteria template, and the application review process, and also the funding recommendation and decision process. So kind of all those process design elements are going to be being developed, as you can see here where it says develop funding process, kind of through the spring and into early summer. We expect to finish all of that work at the end of June 2024. So you can see kind of we're ending right around then. And then we plan to publish the funding application in the fall of 24. So that's kind of right around here. And then for you all to make decisions in the spring, and with grants starting by July 1, 2025. And we want to make sure that folks keep that date in their mind, just because that is our true hard deadline. That's when the current large grants expire. And so we want to make sure the decisions and the entire process is complete so that contracts can begin on July 1 of 2025. So that's our big 1.5 year timeline. And Yushing, if you want to take it to the next slide, I'll go through just a brief summary on kind of, this is the allocation committee's work. So there's a lot of elements to this process. You just heard Camille and Tanisha go through kind of what they're handling in conjunction and collaboration with other partners, as well as the community council doing its work. But this is kind of where the allocation committee in particular is going to be spending their time in the next year. We have scheduled all of our meetings. So this kind of runs through where all our meetings are going to be taking us in 2024. At the March meeting, the committee will consider a draft application questions and scoring criteria. The drafts will include a round of feedback from potential applicants and also further work by the community council. So you hear some more about that from Meg when she comes up to talk next. In May of 2024, we're hoping, as Erica referred to at the end of Camille's presentation, we're hoping to have a joint work session of the allocation committee and the community council, so that folks can hear and discuss the results of the recommendations in the community engagement process. And we want to remind folks that those recommendations are going to be informing the priorities for funding that we include in the application. So it's a very key piece of the application work. And we want to make sure, if at all possible, we can get as many people, all the allocation committee members and all the community council members together at a work session. So that's where we're aiming for May. In June, the committee will be considering the final draft. So after we put all of that input together and the council does its further work, putting a final draft of the funding application that includes the questions, the scoring criteria, and the funding priorities all into one document that the applicants will use to respond. So we'll be looking for the committee to do the final approval on that in June. And then, as I said, publish applications hopefully in September. At the committee's December 2024 meeting, we'll provide a summary of all the applications we've received at that point. So you'll get a sense of understanding what the response was. And then they'll also be considering some recommendations on the process and criteria that staff and community council will use to create funding recommendations, and then whatever planned process we have for the allocation committee decision-making for the funding round. So that takes us through the next year of work, what you all will be spending your time on. I wanted to just remind folks, since we do have some new people on the committee, that the committee's funding decisions are then reviewed by City Council before they become final. And we are in the middle of implementing a revision and a transition to how we're operating as a city. So by the time that the City Council considers the allocation committee's funding decisions in this funding round, we are going to be operating with a new 12-person City Council, so a different City Council than we've had in the past. And we will have, moved through the transition in city government so that we will be administered now by a city manager and their deputies. So just to remind folks that we're doing all of this work in the context of another big transition for the city. So I don't know how much people are tracking on that, and I just want to make sure that we kind of keep that in mind as we move through this. And I don't really know what that will bring or if that will change or make anything different, but I just know it will be different in some respects. So we'll see where that takes us, but that's kind of our roadmap. I'm happy I'm just really just giving you the big picture. So that's the end of my slides. Before we move on to Meg summarizing what the community council's been working on, is there any questions about kind of what that big picture looks like?
No, I think it's just a big elephant, Lisa, is how we're going to be impacted by the new structure.
I mean, that's a really good question, and I don't exactly know. What I do know so far is that the Levy, they're grouping the bureaus into different kind of work areas, and they have just made some decisions about that to start. And so we are grouped with parks, a new area called natural resources that includes some of what Parks does and some of what other bureaus do around natural areas. And the arts, the city arts, which is also going through a transition of where it used to be administered, I think, mostly through an outside nonprofit, and it is now kind of coming into more city purview. So that we are going to be in a work area together. And what exactly that means, I don't really know yet, but it's kind of it's in the process of starting to get hammered out. So I will be happy to bring in, I'm sure Commissioner Ryan can bring some updates as City Council kind of moves through that transition. But I don't know exactly how that will influence what happens with committee decisions. In the past, City Council has been pretty confident in the processes that the levy goes through to arrive at decisions and has not, had any big complaints, but I don't know. I mean, we'll do our best as soon as new members come in to kind of brief them on what's happening, but it's a bit of a short timeline because they'll start in January of 25 and you all will be making decisions in the spring.
Thank you, Lisa. Dan or Tracy, do you have any questions for Lisa? Okay, so we're going to go on to our final update, which is our community council update, and our assistant director, Meg, will provide an update and introduce our newest PCL staff member as well.
Yes, thank you, Felicia. So yes, thanks, Yushing. Before we share those slides, I want to give a huge warm welcome to Katrina Peterson, whose first day on the job is today. So hey, welcome. Nothing like going right into sort of a big public meeting on your first day on the job. She joined our team as Community Engagement Coordinator to support our Community Council as they continue to advise and develop our upcoming grant making process. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce herself a little bit more.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm really excited to be here. I grew up in the Portland area and then was away for about 17 years before returning this year. And my background most recently was in the environmental, climate and energy justice sector, working on organizing and policy at the city, county, and state levels in Washington. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina. We are really excited to have her on board and to see where she takes council in the coming months as they develop our grant making process. And with that, I will get started on sort of an update of what they've been up to the past couple months and the implications for staff's work, and then also some of your decision making coming up. So as we plan the STEX funding process, I just want to remind you all that we're doing so by building on feedback from our previous funding process, from staff's experience in that process, and previous other funding processes at the levy, looking to what our grant making peers do, involving our community council and advising our work, and then finally bringing all of this to you all for decision and input as we go. So today I'm going to review what we've been working on recently as staff, along with our community council and where we're headed. And to get started, I want to kind of put in the context that after our 2019-20 funding process, we did do some surveying of applicants and reviewers to get some feedback. And I want to go over some of the headlines from those surveys. There are full reports that were presented to this body a couple of years ago, and they're available on our website if you want more detail. But with reviewers in our previous funding process, so as we think about redesigning the review process and designing the applicant process, we wanted to go back to this feedback. Reviewers, and there were 65 community members that were recruited to review and score grant applications, and 54 of them responded to our survey. 100% of the people who responded to that survey were satisfied with their experience as reviewers. So there were lots of strengths in the review process. And then one of the things that they mentioned most for where we could improve was to simplify our application. Our application was pretty technical. It was 20 pages long per application for each applicant. So that was a lot of work for reviewers. And of course, that's a lot of work for applicants as well. And then from the perspective of applicants, so we surveyed the 130 plus people that were associated with the different applications we received. 44 folks responded. Most of them were satisfied with how we as a staff communicated throughout the process. We provided a substantial Q&A sort of source of support on a weekly basis. We gave them all of the completed review score sheets on their applications. And then we sent in advance the funding recommendations for their consideration and for testimony. Applicants, their area of greatest dissatisfaction was with the decision-making process. They didn't necessarily understand the allocation committee's rationale for some of their decisions or the process that was used to make decisions. So these are sort of places where we'll begin to continue to do work, but I wanted to kind of set that context of sort of like what's guiding us in terms of feedback from the previous process. So we right now are working on developing the application template. And we are working with Community Council to advise sort of these pieces around simplifying the application. So we convened the council in September, and just a reminder, the council is 13 people now, with representation of the types of communities that are served by the levy, and they have a wealth of professional and lived experience in the types of programming and sectors that are served by the levy. So these 13 folks have been meeting this year, 2023, for the first time. They're new to our work. And most recently in September, they started getting more in depth into advising our application process development. So in September, we asked them to brainstorm the following key topics that are sort of fundamental to our application. What are the qualities of organizations for PCL grants? And what types of information is needed about program services that an applicant wants funded? So they brainstormed some great topics. We took the topics they brainstormed in October and we crosswalked them to our previous funding application. And in general, I want you to know that those things were pretty well aligned, like what they thought were qualities of organizations and what they thought was important information about program services in general fit the types of things that we asked last time in our application. But then we convened them again in November to kind of dive deeper into ways in which we could further simplify the application. And now I'm going to summarize some of that feedback. Can you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So for organization qualities, this is sort of the big picture of where the council is guiding us to structure our application. They think that the most important qualities that we should be hearing about from potential applicants is around purpose, mission, history, and current goals of an applicant organization. They want to hear how the purpose aligns with and is reflected by the clients served, the staff who provide the services, and the board of the organization, and how the purpose aligns with its community partnerships. And they're interested in hearing that both from sort of a qualitative data perspective as well as some quantitative data. They want to understand how the organization understands and responds to the needs of the communities they serve. They want to know about the methods that an organization uses for understanding their own impact. They would like some examples of that. And they want to understand staff and workforce training that's based on responding to community needs. And they'd like the organization to have the opportunity to use some narrative or storytelling in that part of the application. And then finally, they want to understand sort of basic elements of fiscal responsibility for the organization. So those are sort of the organization topics that matter most to the council right now. And then with program services, here's kinds of things they've identified wanting to hear about in an application. They want an overall program plan, like what's the need for the program and how does the applicant know that the program is needed? Who will be served by the program and how will the program engage community to offer the program? What are the specific programmatic activities that the applicant wants funded by the levy? What is the staffing that they want funded by the levy to deliver those activities? And they want to ensure that applicants have a very clear way to indicate the intensity of the services so that it's clear to reviewers and to the allocation committee when they come to making decisions, the difference between the breadth and depth of a given service and how that relates to the number of people that might be served in a proposed program and its costs, because there are key differences there. They want to hear about equitable outcomes in an application, sort of what the intended impacts are of the program and how the program will engage with its community to understand those impacts. And then finally, they want to see a program budget, sort of a simple budget with instructions. And they have raised the question about whether or not 15% for an administrative rate on our grants is too low. They also had some sort of big picture feedback outside of just the organization qualities and program activities information. And these are some of the other considerations that they raised. They want to make sure that the application continues to ask racial equity, diversity, and inclusion considerations in all parts of the organizational qualities and program activities parts of the application. And they want to make sure that it offers a definition for people to use. We did that last time. They want us to continue to do that. They also want to make sure that we add some definitions for places where the application may have been less clear last time, which was around accessibility. What does that mean? What do we mean when we're asking about it? And being served, sort of making sure that, again, going back to that intensity issue, making sure we understand what it means when a program says they want to serve and what it looks like. The council asked us to be careful with uses of tables in the application. They suggested that tables may be problematic because they may be giving the illusion that information is apples to apples, and that they may not indicate well whether or not the program is serving deeply or broadly. So they want to make sure that there's clear narrative opportunity from applicants about that. And they said also tables can be a barrier for applicants if they're too technical. So they just want to make sure that if we include tables, that they're easy to use and there's a clear opportunity for narrative to accompany them. They are also interested in making sure there's a way to understand whether or not a program being proposed is new or sort of an expansion of current work or continuing current work. And that is something that we have built in before, not as part of sort of scoring an application, but just understanding it. So they want to make sure that's still there. And then finally, they have not, and we have not yet developed the scoring criteria for this process or its point values. So that'll be sort of part of what gets developed in this next phase. So using the feedback that came from council, we as a staff are going to spend the next 6 months working on that application template and iterations of it. So I will be reviewing that. This December, we're going to, like I said, start drafting a template and scoring criteria based on that council feedback. Our plan is to take that template and draft scoring criteria and send it to potential applicants. We have about 50 organizations we fund now and about another 140 organizations that are not current Levy grantees that we have on a mailing list. So we'll be sending out this draft template and scoring criteria for them to give input. We want to know whether or not they kind of understand what the questions are asking, whether they feel like the questions are reasonable, and then gather any other feedback they may have about the application. Our plan is to get that out sometime in January, to have that feedback come back by February and analyze it, and to be able to bring it to council for sort of a next level of iteration and understanding. And then finally, to be able to bring it to you all over the course of spring to present to you for input and understanding, and then to finalize it, like Lisa said earlier, by June, so that we can incorporate the community engagement results into that template and be ready to publish the application by fall. Alongside developing the application process, we are also starting to think about the review process. So that's the process by which grant applications are scored and reviewed by reviewers. So just a reminder, in 2019-20, our previous process, we had 65 community volunteers that we recruited, and we did provide them with a stipend of between $200 to $250 based on how many applications they read. Reviewers generally had high satisfaction with the process. However, one of the biggest challenges that we encountered was the score variation in reviewers. So we had 5 reviewers each score a single application, and we averaged their scores together, and that helps control for some of that variance. But for example, on a single application in after school, there were 2 different reviewers. One scored at a 75, one scored at over 90. So you can see sort of like when that point spread happens, that variation raised some questions and concerns for us. And there were some applicants who noted it as well in their survey feedback to us. Thinking about sort of the overall picture of the review process, we brought to the Community Council in November that overview and asked them to think about sort of, we've done this volunteer review process before, but we as a staff had started wondering whether we should hire a diverse cohort of 12 to 15 short-term contractors to review and score applications. So the council took the time to kind of just brainstorm and think about pros and cons to those 2 approaches. And this is sort of a summary of their thinking. When it comes to thinking about stipended community volunteers, some of the pros they identified is that getting 65 volunteers from the community involved in reviewing grant applications builds awareness of the levy and its work in the community. It increases community voice and investment in how we do our grant making. It offers community members a potential professional development opportunity. And the stipend might attract people who otherwise wouldn't be able to participate. It assures that community reviewers can, be paid somewhat for their time for that work. And then one of the cons that they raised was just sort of the workload that it takes for us as a staff to manage 65 reviewers that support them. And then they also raised the concern about the score variance. Some of the pros that they raised around the idea of a cohort of short-term contractors. And I should caveat this to say that we as a staff haven't researched all of the considerations here around city procurement, like what it would take for us to really work with a cohort of contractors, but we wanted to sort of gauge council's interest in this idea before we went too far down the road with researching the procurement considerations. But some of the pros that they raised is paying people for training time and requiring longer, more intensive training. If we paid a cohort, we could pay them for that, paying wages that might ensure a more diverse and representative group of reviewers, although we had a very diverse and representative group of reviewers before. That it might be easier for us as a staff to convene a smaller group of contractors and to address score variation if it came up. And that paying wages to contractors may ensure that we get complete review. We did have a couple of community members last time who had to drop out of the process for personal reasons. So there were a few applications where fewer than 5 people scored the application. And then some of the cons that were raised by the council around the contractors idea was that with a small group doing all the scoring, the potential biases that might come up in that group, but particularly if they are familiar with the youth and family services sector in Portland, sort of making sure we would be able to mitigate against those. And then the reluctance to have a process that sort of favors experts in the review process rather than community voice and perspective. So in terms of next steps for developing the review process, council raised some questions for more information that they wanted to hear about at their next meeting around review process. They want to understand a little bit more about the length of the review period, like how long did reviewers have to do their work last time? How long do we anticipate them having this time? They want to understand a little bit more about the types of training content that we gave reviewers, and they want to understand how to make sure it could help reduce score variation. And then they want to know if there was any other feedback about the review process in the applicant survey from 2019-20. So they will have a deeper discussion about the review process sort of design considerations when they meet again in February. And after they have a little bit more time to chew on that, we'll be structuring sort of a basic outline of the review process and bringing it to you all for consideration and decision. That is my presentation, and I am happy to answer questions.
Okay, I'll start. I think all the way back, I think it was page 2 of the presentation where it said the 20% were dissatisfied with the process.
Yep.
So that they didn't understand rationale for decisions. Is that something that is a goal of this group to clarify the rationale with the process that's going to occur over the next 6 to 9 months and determine the process for funding?
Yes, so the feedback there was around when it came to grant decision-making by the allocation committee, that applicants were dissatisfied with not understanding the reasons why the allocation committee were making its decisions on certain grants and not others. So yes, and we won't be getting into your decision-making process in the next 6 months, but in the subsequent 6 months down the road. So the next 6 months is sort of the application process and review process design. Decision-making as another part of the grant making. So if we think of application, review, decision-making will be something that we start talking about into later summer and fall and winter with you all, like what your decision-making process will look like. How can we use some of those lessons learned from last time to fine tune it and yes to your question about like, how will we find better ways to make sure that the rationale are more transparent? I think that's the key thing we need to figure out in response to that feedback. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and you did a better job of reframing my question, and
Oh,
and,
good.
appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
What is an acceptable, sorry, what is a good score? Is this similar to
Ooh, good
80,
question.
80 to 100 is a good score when you offer the two variances in score?
That's a great question. Sorry, I didn't give that context. Yes, the application last time was, the score total was up to 100 points. And I would say, by and large, scores over 80 were funded applicants. So yes, a score variance from 90 to 75 is a pretty big variance out of a total of 100.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I can say, Dan and Meg, that I've heard from past reviewers and why you might have a score variance. The example of what is good in that area, I think is sometimes unclear to reviewers about like in specific areas of what they're looking for. I'm not saying it has anything to do with the training, but it does show an indication in the variance because they don't understand that area. But I think it's something that it can be resolved. So I have heard that in the past from past community reviewers.
Thanks, Felicia.
Any other questions or comments, Lisa?
I just was gonna comment on your last comment, Felicia, that I think that one of the goals of simplifying the application would hopefully be to be simpler to score. That was, that was at least part of our thinking.
Yeah.
And I'll just add, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, any other questions? Go ahead and add, Meg.
But the only thing I was going to add is I think having council's mind on all of this and work is so helpful. I mean, it's one thing for us as staff to have been doing it, but to have 13 more voices and perspectives on it, I think will really help get at sort of those issues, especially around the scoring criteria, because they haven't seen that yet. So that'll be a next part of work for them to chew on.
I just think it's also exciting that you're going to have past and current recipients review the new version of the application as well. I think talk about being able to give feedback in real time and to people that really benefit from it. I think what a great opportunity for that as well. When I was reading, I'm looking at their presentation as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other questions? Well, guess what, people? We're going to be wrapping up early. So with that, I want to say thank you all for joining us. Welcome, Dan, to the committee. And Tracy, always good to see you as well. Our next meeting will be on Monday, March 11th, 2024. And if you have not received your Outlook reminder requests, allocation committee members, please let Levy staff know, because I already have it on my calendars. I accepted the meeting invites. Agendas will be sent to the Levy email list, share it on our Facebook page, which is at PDX Kids Levy, and posted on portlandchildrenslevy.org. We welcome your participation. If you'd like to join the next meeting to comment on agenda items or the work of the Levy, please visit us on our website, again at www.portlandchildrenslevy.org, and join our email list. As we close out, may these holidays be able to give you a time to rest, renew, and reflect, and get ready for the sheer amount of work we have in 2024, which again will benefit our children and families that actually really benefit from this wonderful tax that I love to vote for every time it comes up. I say tax me, because if it serves children and families, I am for it. And I thank our wonderful Levy staff, because without you, we couldn't do this work. And you are not only a fantastic team, you're a phenomenal team who are passionate and caring and really are stewards of our mission for this levy. And for that, we thank each of you. And so with that, we say have a happy holiday and see you guys all in the new year. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Felicia.
Thanks, team.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
thanks so much.